Hey everyone, I am Julianne Meyer. I am back today with a very, very special guest, Alex Schimmel, and he and I were just having a chat in the back room, in the green room, as they say. And I am really excited to really get into things because, woo, he's got a lot of knowledge. It's easy to understand, and you guys are going to walk away feeling better. Anyway, we'll be back in just a moment. Hey everyone, back again. So as you guys know, I don't like to do a huge introduction before I bring the guest on because I really want them to have an opportunity to share with you what's exciting and what's cool with them. And I just kind of feel like, you know what? They're better at describing them than I am. So let's bring Alex out and let's start our chat. Hey Alex, how's it going?
Hey Julianne, it's so good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you here. Real quick, I just want to say, Alex doesn't have necessarily the best internet connection. So if he freezes, don't worry, he'll be right back in just a second. So anyway, without further ado, I am so glad to have you here. I know you, but not everybody does. So why don't you just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Beautiful. So my name is Alex, like you said. And for the past 10 years, really, I've been specializing in help people get through, really reveal, and then unblock any self-limiting beliefs, any self-doubts, and helping people live from an ego-centered life to a soul-centered life. I've been teaching yoga for the past 10 years. That was kind of my foundation or my start of everything. And now I've moved a lot more into mindset, philosophy, psychology, law of attraction work, and coaching.
I love that. So have you always been healthy, or is it something that, I mean, you're still really young, so it's not like just a little, did something happen, or have you always had that in you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was definitely always kind of driven to be healthy and well, but I didn't always have great health. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease right around my 21st birthday. So it was when I was a senior in college. And that was really a huge shift in my life because I went from having these spiritual practices or wellness practices as knowledge. I knew about it, but then from that diagnosis, it really became embodied. It was, I didn't have a choice, but it just became the way I lived. So yeah, that was a huge part of my awakening for sure.
Well, you know, the thing that I love about you, I mean, there's more than one thing, but something that I really enjoy is that you understand that there's more to health and wellness than just what you eat. So, I mean, granted, you know, garbage in, garbage out. So it does, you know, it does matter what you eat, but there is more to it. So I would love for you to, I know that you're big in breath work. So I would love for you to start out on that topic. If you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a lowdown.
Yeah, for sure. Breathwork has been huge for me. And it's really, as a yoga teacher, the one thing I was always teaching for the last 10 years was breath. I always made sure my classes were breathing practice. And if you took my class, you'd hear me say it. This is a breathing practice first. The movements are secondary and optional. And I knew that breathing well, and I knew this from experience, not the science of it, but I knew from experience that breathing well made me better at everything I did. If I was consciously breathing while I ate food, I would digest food better. If I did some conscious breathing before I went to sleep, I'd sleep better. Sports is where I really saw it. I'd be able to stay more focused if I stayed with my breath. Recently, I've been really diving deep into the subject and the science of it. I like to understand the why behind the what. And one of the big things that I learned was breathing improperly. Not just breathing properly is so good for your health, but breathing improperly, it's really detrimental. We breathe 20,000 times per day. And it's not just like you're breathing or you're not. If you're not breathing well, the 20,000 times per day, it really starts to have its impact on you.
I didn't actually know that. That's fascinating to me. So what kind of things happen to you if you're not breathing well?
Yeah. So, and you're not alone. About 50% of people in the US have respiratory issues, have breathing problems, things that weren't normal, or they're not normal for human beings. We can live optimally without these things, but they're very common. So we think like, oh, it's just part of being a human, like the common cold, having stuffy noses, or not being able to breathe through your nose, snoring, sleep apnea. All those things are breathing problems. And then from that, when you're not breathing well, your nervous system gets all thrown off. And then you start to have this nervous system dis-ease, like higher blood pressure, more stress, more cortisol, and a number of things come from that.
Well, that's actually kind of a really big topic considering COVID right now. And that's respiratory as well. So even just, are there things that people should notice when they're breathing to see if they're, getting enough oxygen, doing it well? I mean, what can people do?
Yeah, so you could go really deep into this. There's so many different yoga pranayamas and breathing techniques, but really the simplest, if you want to simplify everything, first of all, start breathing through your nose, especially for health purposes. Your nose is your first line of defense against any kind of bacteria or viruses. Your nose kind of traps anything in there rather than letting it get right into your lungs, where if you breathe through your mouth, there's no filtration system. It's going right in. So breathe through your nose and then slow down your breathing. 5.5 seconds in, 5.5 seconds out. That's probably 2 to 3 times slower than you normally breathe. But that's going to have a really powerful, beneficial impact on your nervous system.
Do you find it easier once you get in the habit of doing it? Because is it kind of like driving a car where in the beginning where it's like 10 and 2, watch the road, check the mirror, blah, blah, blah. And then after a while, like I'm putting on my lipstick. And,
Yeah, totally. And that's true with anything. The more you practice it, at first, if you're starting a new behavior, it takes conscious effort to create the patterns. But eventually it becomes subconscious or unconscious. But yeah, the more you practice it, the better you get at it, like anything else.
Well, I'm sure you know this, but even your posture affects your breathing. So that, is something that I am a personal trainer as well. So I know a little bit about that, but it was kind of, it makes perfect sense, but I'd never thought about it before. So, the fact that you automatically do that with yoga, I find that kind of fascinating that it's all, it's all so interconnected. And I love that that's what you teach. It's not one thing on an island by itself.
100%. And a couple things with that. First of all, yoga for most of its history, and this is a pretty common misconception, especially in our Western world, because we tend to materialize everything. We make everything about the material and the physical. So yoga, we've even turned into a workout and a movement practice. And for most of the thousands of years that it's been around, for 90% of yoga's history, yoga was a breath technology to help you access your subconscious mind and rewrite the patterns of your subconscious mind to get out of suffering. That's a huge teaching in yoga, that our mind creates suffering. Life doesn't have to be suffering. Life doesn't have to be hard, but our minds tend to create that way. So forever, yoga was a breathing technology to rewrite and rewire those patterns. So it's super powerful, and it really is what yoga is all about.
No, I love that. I just want to touch on something for those that are watching. I 100% agree with you about suffering. I just want to make clear the distinction between pain and suffering. There's still pain, but suffering is optional. Like, there's still, it's, if somebody passes away, of course you're going to feel some pain, but you don't have to suffer because of it. So I just want to make sure that there's a distinction, because I know back in the day, I would have been like, excuse me, what are you talking about?
Yeah, definitely. And for most people, even that's still when you think that, you don't have to live a life of suffering, that's hard for a lot of people. But one of the things that moving to Tulum, Mexico, that's where I am right now. That's why my service is not so well. I think so far so good. One thing I'm really understanding, or that Tulum has been teaching me, first of all, it's paradise as far as what it looks like, the surroundings. It's a tropical paradise in that regard. But Tulum is teaching me paradise is a mindset. And like you said, there's going to be pain in life. There's always going to be ups and downs. You can't escape that. And you don't even want to escape that. It's like a heartbeat. You don't want to flatline. That's it. If we flatline. So the ups and downs are beautiful, but it's the way you respond to them and it's the way you react to it. That's what determines. Like pain is also, it's like temporary. Pain's not going to last forever. Everything is impermanent. But when you start to react to it and grasp onto it or think that it's going to last forever, that's really where you start to suffer, and that tends to carry on. It's not so present.
Well, I know that you're aware of this, but the fact that your brain doesn't know the difference between past and present, real and fake. So like what you watch on TV matters. If you're remembering a past hurt or something and you have all those feelings, it's right there like that. So, I love that you're bringing that up because it is a choice on how we respond.
Yeah.
We can't necessarily choose everything that happens to us, but we can choose how we respond. And totally. I just love that. Even though you seem to be fairly young, you have a wise soul, and I love that. Anyway,
I'm 31. Say? Some people think that I look younger. 31. I'm still young for sure.
You look younger. You definitely look younger.
Yeah. But something that you just said that I really love, you said it matters what you watch on TV. And that's actually one of the pillars of something that I've applied in my life and that I teach to my clients and students is conscious consumption. You talked about it before, how important it is to eat, and we think about that. But also the other things you're consuming, like what you're consuming on TV, what you're consuming in your conversations with the people you surround yourself with, because you become this is an Aristotle quote, you become what you repeatedly do or repeatedly consume. So if you're watching, let's just even use right now, beautiful, let's stay informed, that's fine. But if you're watching the news for like an hour or 2 or 3 hours a day, and we know, not just in COVID time, we know in all the time that the news tends to feed you with fear and kind of negativity. We've said that forever. Yeah. You become fear, you become the negativity, you are what you eat, but eating isn't just like with a fork in your mouth. It's, what you breathe, what you listen to, what you taste, all of it.
Well, exactly. And I don't know if you know this, but I have a background in addiction recovery. So, so I know a lot of different therapeutic things. I'm not a therapist. I just want to make sure I say that. But, things like if you're feeling depression or anxiety, one of the first things you do is go on a news fast. And I don't watch the news typically anymore. Well, I don't even have like cable television, but
beautiful.
So is that, people are like, well, I need to stay informed. Well, the news didn't change that much on the 3 hours that you watched it, first of all. And second of all, people tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
You're not going to, if something happens, you're going to find out about it. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'd love to talk a little bit more about you. And, I want you to pick the topic. Do you want to talk about law of attraction, manifestation, yoga, breathing?
Yeah, I think manifestation is a really big thing. I've been working on my coaching program that I'm getting ready to launch, and it is a manifestation course. And so I've been really focusing on the different elements of manifestation. And I think it's so powerful when you realize that you are the co-creator of your life, and life doesn't come at you, it comes from you. And this can be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. But when you take that radical responsibility, when you realize when you declare, hey, my life is coming from me, then you can start to change what you do in the future and how you can move forward.
I love that. And, a lot of people, like you said, it's a hard pill to swallow at first. But then if you change your perception, you realize you have control over you. So the control freak that I am, I love it because then, I can change me and I can change my results. So there's always room for that.
Yeah, totally. And well, first of all, the control thing is that's tough too, because we don't have control over the external world. No. And again, we tend to be such external beings. Like we want to have control over the physical, over our surroundings, and that's just not possible. But what we can control 100% is our inner being, our inner response, our inner reaction.
I love that. It takes practice though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. Everything in life. And again, it's not the way that we're taught so much. We're taught to be more reactionary than being a creator, especially as we get older, tighter. When we're young, our inner child's such a creator, living so present, so joyous, connected to who we really are. And then as we get older, we lose a lot of that, and we become more reactionary to what's going on in the world. And we forget what we have control over. We kind of get confused we try to control the uncontrollables, and that's going to also cause some suffering.
Well, I noticed too, and I used to be a really bad habit of doing this myself, was waiting for my outside circumstances to change so I could be happy. And, waiting or trying to fix all the things on the outside so that I could be happy on the inside, not realizing that I was creating what was on the outside from what I was feeling on the inside. So when I kind of got a handle on that, it was such a life-changing experience. And I know the things that I do to try and keep myself present and mindful. What are some things that you do in your everyday practice?
Yeah, I think presence is one of the biggest ways to be present in life, is to just be more aware of your breath. It's super simple. It's always there. If you're consciously breathing, you're in the present moment. You can't breathe in the past or the future. So that's one tool that we have. Another really big one is going from, and I talked about this a little bit, going from ego-centered to soul-centered. And ego-centered is where you're in it and kind of being the actor and the reactor to everything. And one of the most powerful tools, or one of the most powerful things you can do, is take a step back and be the observer. And that's really the first step to manifestation, is starting to observe or uncover where you're blocking yourself, where you're creating self-limitation. And when you can see that clearly, when you start to be able to observe that and accept, okay, hey, this is what I'm doing, then you're able to create new patterns and change it. But if you're not aware of it, if it's unconscious, then you can't change it. You can't make the switch.
No, you can't change what you can't see. So
yeah.
But here's the question for you, and maybe you can answer this one. I'm hoping you can. So if you don't know what you don't know, how do you get to know it? Like, how do you become the observer?
Yeah, I love that. I think there's a few things. One, how to know what you don't know is even recognize that. The more that I start to learn and know, the more I realize, whoa, there's so much that I don't know. There's so many things out there that I have no idea about. But as I get outside my comfort zone, and take the usual lens away, then I can start to see things a little more clearly. Meditation has really helped me with that, because meditation is a practice of observation rather than reaction. And as I learn to observe something as simple as my breath without trying to change it or fix it, I can start to observe my life without trying to change it or fix it.
You bring up something that's really important. And I also want to mention about that is the judgment part. We tend to notice things and then I'm being broad when I say this, but I know me, especially in the beginning, I always had a judgment, especially when I first started meditating. Why can't I stop? I always had some sort of judgment. I was so mean to myself.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people struggle with that.
When do you think that started? When in your life? Because as a really young child, you didn't judge yourself. You lived the way you wanted to live. So when do you think that started? That judging?
Actually, it did start young, but my surroundings weren't safe. So I definitely had to be aware of how I was being, because I figured if I could change and be a better kid, then I would it would be less scary in my home environment. So,
yeah.
I think that for me, it started pretty early, but, I just feel like we just sort of take on this personality, especially teenagers, and then don't let it go.
Yeah. And I love that too. And I love what you said. And a lot of the work I do also is inner child work, and bringing you back to that place where you realize, hey, as an inner child, you needed that maybe protection. You needed the walls that you put up. But now you got the wisdom and the lessons, and you don't need the walls anymore. And I don't know your life specifically, but for most people, they have the same thing where you start to put up these barriers when you're young to protect you, especially you're vulnerable, and it's tough to be young and vulnerable when the world around you can be a threat or scary, or I know for a lot of people now, like bullying in young people is such a problem. So you put up these walls and this ego and armor, and what once protected you now just weighs you down. And when you allow yourself to take off the armor, when you kind of declare, hey, I'm safe now, I'm still vulnerable, there's going to be moments where I'm hurt, but I learn from the pain. I'm able to grow from those experiences. They're not things that I want to avoid. That's a super powerful thing.
I love that. Obviously I've done work on myself as well. And the thing that, I always tend to say when these different little personalities come up, and like the protector or the little child, I'm like, that doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. And it's so big to get to that realization that, hey, I don't need that old way of thinking or acting. And that's that observation as well. Because if you can observe it, if you can take a step back and like, hey, I think about the what's the Netflix girl that like to tidy up everything. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was really popular.
Kondo, yeah.
Yeah, Marie Kondo. So I didn't watch it, but apparently she says, like, does this bring you joy? Does this spark joy with all of your possessions? And I love that, but do that also with your ways of living. So your ways of thinking. Does this spark joy? If that way of thinking doesn't spark joy, then, and it's easier to just but you can let go of it. Start to practice replacing it or rewiring it. And there are techniques to do that just take effort. It's not that it's super hard work. It's just consistent effort, and you can change those patterns. But yeah, if it doesn't spark joy, then let it go.
Exactly. And I think something that people tend to forget about too is that we get addicted to certain emotions. And if you're not aware of that, it's kind of like, well, I'm an angry person or I'm a sad person, but your brain is wired in such a way that you're going to keep creating that because that's what you're used to. And it's kind of like the poison, So it is, like you said, about becoming conscious, which I love, and being aware of that. You can purposely choose something different, and then gradually it becomes your new neural pathway, and you've got this whole new way of being. And I love that.
Yeah, and words are so powerful too. You just used the example of when they get stuck, they say things like, I'm just an angry person. That's the way I am. That's really powerful, those affirmations, especially when you believe them, right? So there's something called heart-brain coherence. You can't trick your body just by saying like, I'm happy, but the rest of you is like sad and feeling down.
Yeah.
But if you really affirm and believe I'm a sad person or I'm an angry person, you're going to create that reality for yourself. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So another thing to be aware of is the way you speak. And we know that thoughts are really powerful. Mm-hmm. Your words are more powerful vibration. So your thoughts are one, but your words create this concrete reality. It becomes a little more real. Being impeccable with your word, it's one of the four agreements. It's so important in your life. Even when people struggle, if they have anxiety or something like that, a lot of people take ownership of it and they say my anxiety or my depression. And it's not yours. That's not who you are. It's just something that you're experiencing. So It's like I'm experiencing more anxiety, but you're not anxious because you, the real you, it's not ego identification. It's your soul, and souls don't get anxious. Souls don't worry. Souls are in a state of probably what you're searching for in life. So your soul, who you are, is joy and bliss and peace and consciousness and presence. Still ups and downs, but you don't need to get so tied up into those.
Yeah, you don't need to become that. And, I love that. And that is one of the things that really resonates with me. And I don't know if you're familiar with the author Steve Chandler. That's okay. You don't need to be. But the point is that I've read so many of his books, but one of his things is that, he talks about being like you win the lottery. You win the lottery and, people will say, well, if you win, you're going to be, super excited, right? But you don't ever hear anybody say, I'm too depressed to celebrate the fact that I won $1 million. I just, you know what I'm saying? When you see it like that, you can instantly change your feelings if you think about it, because, or somebody's drowning in the pool and you happen to be sitting there. You don't say, oh, I'm too depressed to go save their life. You're their life. So I just love these examples because it really shows you that you aren't your feelings. They're something you're experiencing, like you just said. So I just wanted to.
And you said that too. You said that earlier, that it's kind of an illusion, the past and the future. It's a creation of your mind, and that idea of how you're going to feel when you win the lottery. That's a big part of manifestation. That's something that I do when I wake up in the morning. I feel I'm not a billionaire yet, but I feel like a billionaire, So I just wake up and I'm so grateful to be alive and I'm excited about my day. And do I wake up every single day like that? Do I feel excited? Not necessarily, but I can put myself in the mindset now. It's much easier for that wire to fire now than it was a few years ago with my effort, with my conscious practice. And it feels really good because there was many a days, especially around the time I got diagnosed with Crohn's, and I also got diagnosed with diabetes. So like my life's not perfect, but I've made the best of my life, and I really do believe I live a beautiful, blessed life. There were days around those times that I did not wake up feeling like a billionaire. I woke up feeling like such a victim, and my life is terrible, and it did not serve me. And now I still have those same things that I deal with, but I wake up and I'm like, I'm excited and I'm going to make the most of my day. And I know that my days aren't guaranteed, not because of health issues, but just that's the truth for everybody. Like, we don't know how long we get to live on this earth.
No,
man, live it up today. Have a great day. Have a great 1 hour.
Exactly. I'm actually going to pause right there because that was like the best pause for our commercial break. Alex, I'll bring you back in just a moment. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks.
Hey, everyone. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge all the viewers today because I have a really horrible habit lately of getting so interested in the conversation and not saying hello. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you're having as much of a good time as I am with Alex. I'm sure you are. We do have to take a commercial break, but we'll be back in just a moment.
3, 2, 1, 0.
1, 2, 3, 4.
everyone. We're back again. I just want to make sure I reiterate that if you have any questions for me or my guests, you can either comment and we'll get to you. Otherwise, you can email me as well at ownyourwellness@e360tv.com. But enough about that. Let's bring back why you're here. Hello, Alex. Thank you for joining us. So excited you're here.
Happy to be back.
It was nice and quick, right? Not the long commercial break, which is kind of cool. But anyway, so, you know, you were talking about different practices and things like that. And there's something that I always love to ask people that I interview. And that is like, how do you, because you mentioned, you know, starting your morning, being in a certain mindset. What is it? What are your must-dos each day to keep you focused on your goals and the positive, as opposed to, because it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole of negativity. So what is it that you do?
Yeah, so my routines and rituals have definitely evolved over the years. And I think I actually don't think that there's, at least this is the way I learn. I don't think there's like one way to do it. And as I've learned more about myself, it's evolving. I used to have this like long to-do list of non-negotiables, and the days I did it, it felt great. But the days I wouldn't do everything, I would start to have guilt and shame. And I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm doing these rituals to feel good. So now I try to really keep it simple. And every single day, I wake up with gratitude. That's the first thing. So when I get out of bed, I put my feet on the floor, feel grounded. So feel my feet touch down, and I just express 3 things that I'm grateful for. I don't think about it. I just say it out loud. So today I was grateful for my girlfriend. I was grateful for the bed that I was sleeping in. I was grateful for my doggy, you know, so 3 things. And that really starts my day in a good way. And then from there, in the first hour of waking up, I do breath work, which is really also a good meditation practice for me. Meditation is a practice of concentrating. So breath work is my concentration practice, and some kind of movement. Sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's going for a walk, sometimes it's going for a little jog or run. But those are the things that are non-negotiables for me right now, and that just really feel good in my practice.
Well, you know, I'm really glad that you brought up the fact that it changes and that it doesn't have to look a certain way, because I think that, you know, we get stuck in, even with diets, like we get stuck like, well, that worked for them, so I'm going to do that exactly, without figuring out what actually works for us. And I love that you're open to different things. And for me, there's a few things that are non-negotiables and everything else is gravy. But my non-negotiables take like 5 to 10 minutes. So even on my worst day, I can get those things done. And you know, I'm not going to feel bad about if I don't get the rest done.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed too is at first I thought, well, I do agree with this still, that the way you start your day is so powerful, but you can start your day really well. And then if the rest of the day it's like, you know, bullshit and unconscious behavior, it's not serving you. So what I try to do is those 3 things, gratitude, breath, and movement, I try to incorporate it through my whole day. So especially now, I just recently quit my corporate job, and now I'm kind of living that laptop lifestyle, moved to Mexico. It's a totally different, you talked about broadening your perspective a little bit. This is a totally different experience for me, really outside my normal comfort zone. But it's beautiful. I love growing like this. But what I do is every half hour, 2 hour, I'll practice these things. I'll do some push-ups, I'll do some breath work, and I'll practice gratitude. And for me, if I can stay in that vibration, everything else kind of falls into place. I don't need to have this super long list of things I need to do or non-negotiables.
I love that. And the fact, you know, there's 2 things I want to mention because you said that. One is I have this friend that I used to work with. Her name's Sue Ann, and she came into work and she was just like in the most horrible mood. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to have a do-over. She got out in her car, drove around the block, and came back in and started over. And she was fine. It reset her attitude. And ever since then, she's so amazing. But anyway, ever since then, I've always thought that is such an easy way to just sort of stop, put on the brakes, you know, shake it off and start over.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it. And Tony Robbins calls it priming. You know, that's kind of his thing in the morning. And when you change your state, so it really helps by movement is a huge one with this, but it could be making sound or dancing. You literally can reset. And so many people have this idea that, you know, when the next in the new year, I'll change these behaviors, or the new month, or they wait till the next Monday, or even the next day, when really moment by moment you can reset. Every single breath is an opportunity to start over, to start again. It is a new beginning. And when you break it down like that, it just serves you so much, because again, like, why wait? If not now, when?
Exactly. And you never know. Like you mentioned before, we don't know how long we have on this planet. We have no idea. So do you want to spend it angry when you could have changed that? Or do you want to spend it frustrated when you could have changed that? All it takes is to breathe or reset. For me, and I've mentioned this on other broadcasts before, but well, a few things. One is, like, for me, when I start to get upset, I want to eat. And being in the nutrition field and physical fitness field, I have to live in integrity. So granted, I will indulge from time to time like a normal person, but I don't want to give in to emotional eating. So what do? I might do some jumping jacks, and it resets my brain too. So then I'm physically moving, and I get my, the blood's flowing better. And all of a sudden it's not that important to me.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Like, you can get your brain to change by moving your body. And
Totally.
I love that you brought that up. So for somebody who is looking to start a yoga practice, what would you recommend?
If you're, I think that one of the most important things is finding a teacher that you resonate with, because not all yoga, not all yoga teachers are created equally. Different teachers have different philosophies and personalities, but also learn from someone that is living a life that inspires you, and see if you can. Sometimes that's hard in the age of social media, because you only see people's highlights. For me, I want to learn from someone that's vulnerable, that keeps it real, and that's kind of living their practice. So I think that's really powerful. But also another really big one with starting yoga, one thing that's way more accessible now is doing an online practice. That's beautiful, from being able to just practice from your own home. And no, even if you do take a class in person, which it's not happening all over the country right now, in some places it is though. Mm-hmm. If you're taking a class in person, know that everybody has been in your shoes. Everybody's been a beginner at some point, and you actually have the advantage as a beginner, because you get to grow the most, you get to expand the most. So don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun, feel good.
I love that. That is such a beautiful way to look at it too. Because it's true. Plus, you don't have any preconceived notions, so you're still able to learn. Because the more you learn, the less likely you are to be open to it. I mean, most people. So I like that, the beginner's mind.
Yeah, and expectations is a killer, really, of anything you do, any relationship. So same thing with your yoga practice. You don't need to have expectations of yourself or the experience. Just let yourself be as present as possible, and see what comes up.
I love that. And you and I have a mutual friend named Alex as well. And one of the things, he taught me how to meditate. So one of the things is, he just had me start out 5 minutes a day. And it was really kind of cool, because, it was the breathing in and out, and like you had to count your breaths. And he always said that, just 10. And all of a sudden I realized I counted 1 like 3 times, or I 13, and I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? So it's kind of funny, but then once you can just sort of laugh at that and just enjoy, it's so much more fun.
Totally. And that's so powerful when you get to that place where you can accept yourself. There's a quote that my teacher shares, and I don't know if he created the quote. I like to kind of have the knowledge, but I'm not sure exactly who said it first. But he says, no amount of self-improvement can make up for a lack of self-acceptance.
Oh my gosh. I think you just replaced my favorite quote.
Yeah, it's super powerful, because you can do all the self-improvement stuff. You can meditate every day and have your vision boards and read your self-help books. But if you're constantly criticizing yourself and judging yourself, it's not going to help. So acceptance is such a powerful practice. And that's really the first part of self-love is just self-acceptance.
Wow, that was really deep and actually easy to understand, because usually for me, it's like one or the other.
Yeah.
But I love that, because, wow, Wow. Yeah. And then also, well, that's actually something that it's funny that I was kind of always been saying the same thing, but never even realized it. My thing is, I love to help people improve, but I don't want them to come from a place of feeling like they're broken because they're not broken people. They just want to change some stuff. And,
Totally.
that's exactly what it is. It's accepting who you are and loving who you are. And actually, if you could do that, whatever you do want to change happens a lot quicker.
Way quicker when you're coming from a place of wholeness. And that's what healing is. Healing comes from I think they share the same root, but anyway, it just makes sense to me. Healing and being whole. So when you think that you're broken or fragmented or something's wrong with you, then you're going to struggle. But when you realize like, no, I am whole and complete as I am. And again, you have to accept the ups and downs. We all have some issues and flaws, and that's okay. And it's actually what makes us so beautiful. And when we get to that place of accepting those ups and downs and realizing that we are whole and we are perfect how we are, then we really start to take control of our lives.
I love that. Sounds like Christmas.
Yeah, my dog's ringing the bell in the back.
That's so cool. No, I love that though, because it's so much, and plus life is so much more fun if you're not bagging on yourself all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. So I'm just curious, have some of your health conditions improved since you changed your lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. And again, I take radical responsibility. Those conditions that I was diagnosed with, and that's a big thing too. I don't say I was diagnosed with them, because if I'm asymptomatic, which a lot of the times I am, then I don't say I have that. Disease is dis-ease. And when there's ease, then that stuff is gone. Anyway, I take radical responsibility. In college, I lived a really unhealthy life with partying and drinking, and I probably ate cheesesteaks and chicken tenders for 4 nights of the week for dinner. And so it didn't surprise me I got diagnosed with a digestive disorder, even though they say it's hereditary. And when that happened, I totally had that was a life-changing experience. It was a paradigm shifter for me. And I really changed the way I lived in all ways. I changed the way I ate. I changed how I thought. I changed my practices. I changed how important sleep was to me. And yeah, I would say that with these diseases that really cause people to struggle a lot, I feel like I'm thriving. I'm thriving with them. So it's cool. I'm not on medication. I was on all kinds of different medications for Crohn's disease, some with really scary side effects. And now my diet and my mindset and the way I live is my medicine and my food. So
yes. So well said. What is it? Can't remember who said it, but let thy food be thy medicine.
Yeah, I think it's Hippocrates.
That's right. Yes.
Hippocrates. Yeah.
Yes, I love that though, because you can. And the problem too that comes up with taking medication, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't take medications. I'm not going there. Like, body's your choice and everything else. But everything that you ingest that is foreign, you're taking a chance of a side effect and everything else. So depending on, I just want people to be aware that there are other options if what they're doing isn't currently working for them. If it is working, more power to you. Like I never tell somebody not to do what's best for them, but I just, you don't know. Yeah.
And I think also look into other options. I've had, Western medicine has saved my life. Western doctors in a lot of ways has saved my life because I've had some acute, serious issues.
Yeah.
But also Eastern medicine is what has allowed, and natural medicine is what has allowed me to really thrive in my life and go from victim, because I really felt like a victim, to victor. And I feel like I'm victorious over these things that I was diagnosed with. And I feel like every day I feel like I'm winning in my life. And it wasn't always like that, but I'm happy that I had both East and Western medicine. And if it wasn't for my own kind of study and looking outside the box, there's a lot of practices that I would have never known about, and maybe I wouldn't be feeling as good as I do.
The thing is there's just so many options, and I love that you pointed out that Western medicine, there's definitely a time and a place. Like, I don't ever want to put that down ever.
Mm-hmm.
I just want, I just want to reiterate, there are other ways to improve your life as well, even if there's nothing wrong. Like for me, is it Tony Robbins? Yeah, I think it's Tony Robbins that says something to the effect of that what you don't want to do, you don't think you can do, you need to do. I know I'm totally murdering the quote, but it's that idea. Like, for me, the longest time it was meditation. Trying to, it's just, man, it was like asking me to, I don't know, like, do something I really like, go clean dog poop or something. Like,
Yeah.
not want to do it. There was so much resistance, but I finally just did it. And there were so many times I was sitting there just like itching to stand up, but I got through it. And it's a metaphor for everything else in your life, because there's always something you're not going to want to do. And if you can do it, then it starts with the little things.
Even just the practice, seeing where you have resistance in life and working to move from resistance to acceptance, like working through that resistance. It doesn't matter if it's something like meditation that has proven scientific benefits, or something like dancing that has proven scientific benefits too. But it can be anything. If just the effort or the practice of getting over resistance and moving from resistance to acceptance, it's really powerful. And that, to me, those two words, that is heaven and hell. Heaven and hell is usually a religious thing, and it's usually what people think of when you die. I don't believe it happens when you die. I believe it's moment by moment. And for a lot of people, they're creating hell on earth for themselves because they're constantly resisting the way things are and they want to have control. It's another thing that Tulum is teaching, is like, let go of control. Any time of day, there can be a torrential downpour that can just come down on you, and your classes or workshops might get canceled, and it's just, you got to let go. You got to surrender to it. If you're in resistance, you're really going to feel like it's hell on earth. If you're in a place of acceptance or surrender, it really feels like heaven. And that's a moment by moment thing that you can practice. And when you can apply it in your life and really implement it, it's the first step to freeing yourself.
That's actually a really important comment, especially with COVID right now. There's so many people that are so angry that it's happening and fighting the fact that it's here, whether or not you believe in it. There are things that we need to do now that we didn't have to do. I'm just going to put it like that without trying to ruffle any feathers, although I don't really care if I do. But the point
you shouldn't. You should always also stand true. Yeah.
People are dying. I know people that have it. So, it kind of drives me a little crazy when people say it's not real, when I know people that have it and I know people that have died. So, that's kind of like, it's happening. So to, be all pissed off if they're have to wear a mask or something. Yeah. Well, that's a first world problem right there.
We can go deep here, but I do want to say one thing that I've also seen. We talked about the topic a little bit. COVID, I think one of the biggest things that it's revealed is our fear of death and dying. And that's something that 75% of Americans are really uncomfortable talking about. But that's one of the things that we're seeing a lot of, is that, COVID it's like, hey, you don't know, you might die. And if you get it, you might die. That's not something that we typically have in our awareness, in our consciousness. And it's showing that we are really afraid of death. And that's I love working with death. I actually teach death meditations where some of the things that we were talking about, you contemplate this truth that death is coming. Every moment we're getting closer and closer to it because we don't know when it comes. Yeah. And it's a whole process, this death meditation, but ultimately it gets to this place of like, hey, if you don't get busy living, you're getting busy dying, and make the most of every day, kind of like carpe diem. And I think that's really coming more into our awareness now with COVID.
You said something that just all of a sudden, like, if there's like a little light bulb thing, it would have popped up above my head. The fact that it brings up the issue of people being afraid to die, that explains to me finally why there's so much denial about it, because that's what's coming up. I never thought about it like that before. It's like, I can't see, la, 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 la. Can't hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. And it's also showing, you know, a lot of, it's not just unhealthy people, but it's also revealing where there's a lot of unhealthy people in our country. You know, we have a lot of, there's a lot of issues with metabolic health, and that's something that needs to be addressed too. You know, I know right now we're addressing COVID as the acute thing that we're focusing on, but heart disease and diabetes, and also all these medicines that people are on, there's kind of a common, I don't know what, I think ACE inhibitors, if you're on those medicines, you're more likely to die if you get COVID. And it's not because the medicine is bad for you, but it's showing again that we have a lot of unhealthy people. And hopefully that's something that can really come out of this is we come out on the other side really becoming, again, self-sovereign beings, and being mindful of what we eat and what we consume and what we read and how we think and how we feel and act and work together. So I think I really am super optimistic, and not in like a positive vibes only way, because I don't believe in that. I believe that shadow work's important too, but I'm really optimistic that good things are coming from what right now feels like a tragedy in some ways.
Yeah. You know, there's always that silver lining, as they say. I mean, I hate that saying sometimes, but really there's nothing is all good or all bad. So, you know, why not embrace it all?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that's another huge download that I've been getting here on this trip is good and bad is really just, and Shakespeare said this too, which is kind of funny, but good and bad is just, there is no good or bad. It's just a quality or a creation of your mind. And, and again, when we surrender, like there's always going to be waves. And if you try to control the waves or try to only be on the high, like crest of the wave, then you're going to crash, and you're going to really experience that too. So it's such a powerful thing. I actually have this book right here that I read early this year, right before COVID happened, The Surrender Experiment. And it's so powerful and profound. And it's like, it's one of my favorite books.
Didn't you read Untethered Soul?
I haven't read that, but it's the same author. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. And just the idea of when we surrender to life, because there is a divine, at least this is my belief and what I feel is truth, there's a divine intelligence that runs through all things. If we look at science, if we look at nature, we see there's such beauty and perfection. And sometimes our little egos are like, well, no, this is how it should be. This is really bad. This is really good. And first of all, that is such a heavy weight. That's exhausting to always be living like that, when you can take a step back and just surrender and just, hey, I'm here and I'm riding these waves and I'm learning to surf. Life gets so much, you just feel so much freer.
Yes, that's so well said. I love that. I'm gonna have to check out that book. I like him. He's a good author.
Yeah. Did you read Untethered Soul?
Yeah, it was good. Okay. I actually people keep giving me copies of it, which is kind of funny.
Really? Yeah, this is the Surrender Experiment's a great one, and I'm reading right now New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and I literally have only read like the first 20 pages, but I'm just awakened. I feel so good reading it.
I'm gonna have to read that because that's on my. I actually have that book. It's one of the many, as you and I were talking before. I've got a huge list of books on my that I want to read. But we are running out of time, so we want to make sure that people can get a hold of you. And so I put this as your website, and then is that better, or is IG the best way to get a hold of you?
Both are great. My website, theyogageneral.com, Instagram @theyogageneral. Those are great ways to get in touch. I'm super open. I love meeting new people. I love having conversations with new people. I love helping people. That's really what I'm here for. That's my dharma, is to share the things that I've experienced and made a part of my life that have helped me so much. I'm here to help other people. And those are great ways to get in touch.
So what would you, if there's one thing that you could leave with the audience, what would it be? No pressure.
you're the creator of your life, and you, at your true nature, you're a limitless human being, and limits are just creations of your mind. And when you really do the work to observe your mind, when you do the work to excavate and rewire the patterns that you have that are not only just from you, but have been passed down from generations, because you probably have picked up a lot from your family and your lineages. When you heal that stuff, when you face it and see it and accept it, then you free yourself. And the biggest thing is that life is happening for you. It's happening for you, and it's coming from you. It's not happening to you. It's not coming at you. And when you realize that and live like that, then you can live the life of your dreams. It's super possible and realistic.
I love that. That's, I just finished this thing called the Soul Journey. It was a program through my spiritual mentors, I should say. It's a husband and wife team. And, it was just kind of one of those things that I learned too, is that one of the prayers or affirmations is that I found for me, because long story, I did a lot of internal work and it took like 20 something hours of work to get there. But for this affirmation, but the point is that it was just that everything is helping me to trust the higher self in me. So when things are happening, it's for me to trust myself. So
yeah, I love that too. That's a huge teaching, that you are your best teacher. I tell people that all the time. I'm not your guru, and I'll guide you back home to yourself, because guru, you are you. That's the way to think about it. Yeah. And you are your greatest guru and teacher, not your ego, but soul, who you really are, will guide you and always take care of you.
I love that. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. I appreciate you too. It was great to talk and be with you all.
Great. Have a great night.
You too. See you guys.
So Alex had to hop off, and it is time for us to end as well. Oh my gosh, I just love that guy. He is so amazing. And obviously we had a good time having our chat. So I'm actually going to watch it again myself. Anyway, like I said before, you can reach me at ownyourwellness@e360tv.com. And I just want to say, have yourselves a fantastic night.